Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bad Chess Podcast. I am your host, the current reigning, defending, undisputed third worst chess player on Kick, KD215. When we all first started talking about this podcast, I said my goal was to have the opportunity to talk to people across all forms of entertainment and sports that I admired or enjoyed working with. Well, the first time I saw today's guest, she was on my phone screen getting absolutely shredded by thousands of internet trolls while trying to host a trivia show. She professionally ignored the haters, and I felt that her presence, cadence, and delivery were just brilliant. I quickly found her on social media and have followed her career ever since. A few years ago, she started to share her journey of sobriety, and growing up in an environment where I was surrounded by people battling that addiction, I gained even more respect for this woman. If you don't follow her socials, you're missing out on some of the funniest media insider antics around. If you're unfamiliar with the gorgeous and talented Sarah Pribis, check this out.
I'm your host, Sarah Pribis, and I'm here at the New York Film Festival.
That's a great question. Shiza, I've never been asked that one.
I'm so happy to have you here.
This is unreal, honestly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, here's the thing. We celebrate Cat Week every year, and so we thought maybe you would be our spokesperson for
Cat Week?
Cat Week. Will you?
I have a cat.
Oh, what's your cat's name?
Her name is Sophia. She's like the love of my life.
Of course she is, as all cats should be.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you'll come back Monday, and you'll be our spokesperson for Cat Week.
Yes, absolutely. It's time to trivia. I'm your host, Sarah Pribis, and I'm so excited to be here on this evening edition of HQ. Let's do it. Q1. Which of these is usually worn on a finger? Ring.
Are you sure? Are we sure about this?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
If you like it, then you better put a ring on it.
A ring, that's right.
What food have you come home and found he's gotten into?
He's definitely gotten into the treat jar, and he's paid for it.
Today we have a very special Prime Day deal on one of the latest power drinks that can help jumpstart your day, and that is Bulletproof Coffee. Now, everyone's been raving about Bulletproof Coffee and its ability to hack your mind and your body.
We've got 3 contestants ready to compete against each other in 2 rounds of bowling challenges. Are you guys ready to bowl? Yes, we are. And Facebook, are you ready to win some money?
Let's do it.
She's gonna go for it. How did it feel to be on stage again?
It's good. It's always good to be back in my element, man.
You recently found out that you had like all of these DMs. And thank God, because I've been trying to get in touch with you to do this for a while now. So wait, I want to dive into this a little more. Like, this is 2 years worth of messages. Like, who was in there? Like, what were they asking for?
Nicki Minaj.
I was so inspired by your story that I actually went into my folder and I had no messages from Viola Davis or Nicki Minaj. I just had a bunch of creepy dudes asking to see my feet. We're celebrating Transformation Tuesday. I have a really amazing job.
Let's welcome to the Bad Chess Podcast, the girl with the shiniest Hiney in the industry, Miss HQ Trivia herself, Sarah Pribis. Sarah, how are you tonight? Thanks for joining us. Oh, Sarah can't hear. Uh-oh. This is unfortunate. Sarah, can you hear me now?
Yes!
So, oh my goodness. Look, guys, we do this live, so I tested and kind of rehearsed this before. I don't think I messed up my settings. Anyway, hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's probably best that I couldn't hear my own hosting reel. I don't need that. So this worked out perfectly.
Do you struggle going back and watching yourself or listening to yourself? Because I hate listening to myself.
Not anymore, but it definitely took a long time to get over it. But I think, given the nature of having to do so many self-tapes post-pandemic, and that's sort of like the audition process, you just have to watch yourself on tape so much all the time that you really do get used to it. I got used to it.
So I think we have to dive right into HQ trivia. You know, for a couple of years there, it was one of the biggest apps on the planet. What was it like to be a part of that?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I don't think anybody knew what it was going to be, right? You know, when I applied to do the show, it was still nothing. It was still in beta. And, um, you know, it just by chance happened to blow up into this entity. And so I was sort of like on this roller coaster ride. And you kind of just didn't know what to expect. It was a lot of new experiences for me because I hadn't ever been um, at something that was, you know, as well known as that, I suppose. And then also, I was writing a lot of my own material and like the improvisational nature of it as well. It just, you know, was completely something that I had not done before. So while I was learning, while I was like getting to do something that was super fun, um, you know, it was, yeah, I don't know. It's just like a mixed bag of experiences, I think.
You hosted this show quite often, but many people tend to focus or only remember on Scott Rogowski. Why do you think that is? Because in my opinion, you were the better host. Nothing against Scott.
I mean, I think that he was the face of HQ Trivia. You know, he was the first host, and I was hired sort of as like an alternate slash when they decided to do more and more games. Because at first it was like 1 day a game, and then basically they were doing 2 games a day, and you know, they essentially were like, well, we need a second host. You can't be doing 14 games a week. That would be crazy. So when I came in, you know, I was hired like as the second person. So I think the internet had become accustomed to having a certain personality. So, you know, some people were like, oh, great, a new personality. This is really exciting. And some people were like, we want Scott. So I think it was again sort of a mixed bag there. And yeah, I mean, in looking back, I think it really depends on when people played. Certainly like in the height of HQ Trivia, I was there. I hosted the first million player game, which I think actually was in that reel, right? Like I'm like, we got players. So, you know, I definitely was there as it was growing and at its height. But if anybody came in sort of right after that, or even maybe I guess before I was hosting so many games, like that would be an easy way to be like, I'm not sure who that was. Like it's very easy. I mean, Scott is a very memorable person. How could you not remember him, you know?
He
I don't want
definitely
to say
is.
I'm not memorable. That's like saying that I'm not memorable, but you know what I mean.
Sure. So when you hosted, obviously the chat, as you pointed, they were not always happy. Could you see the chat? What were your internal reactions to some of the stuff written? And why wasn't there better moderation of that chat?
I cannot answer all of those questions because I simply do not know why there wasn't better moderation. I mean, there were people moderating and definitely people got kicked out. I think it was, you know, if I had to wager a guess, it'd be that there were so many comments, particularly like as it got popular coming in at once. I mean, I never read them while I was hosting. Like it just would have been impossible. I mean, the way you see them when you're playing, right? They're just like streaming in. So you can barely read them as a viewer. So as a host, like it just would have been impossible to do that and try to host a live game at the same time. So, you know, if the live reactions that we were giving were primarily to number of people that got things correctly, you know, or you know, if there were birthdays that were like pre-submitted, we kind of knew those things. But I didn't really see any of the negative comments, or any of the comments I should say, until after the games. And like I would go back and watch some of my performances because people would repost them to YouTube, just kind of be like, okay, what can I do better here? Like, did that joke land the way that I wanted it to? And if people left the comment chat part of the game on, then I could see that in the screen recording on YouTube. And yeah, it took a lot of getting, like I don't think I ever got used to it while I was hosting at HQ. Like it's only since TikTok that I have become much more comfortable about like being a person on the internet and like not really caring what people say. But I think during HQ I had a really hard time seeing negativity and not taking it personally, even though now it's so interesting because I realize it's so much more a reflection of the person writing the comment than actually of the person they're making the comment about.
Sure. And I mean, as a streamer, I stream. Obviously, we're streaming this right now. There are always going to be trolls, and you don't know what's going on in their lives. I try to. I don't always immediately go to the ban of people. You know, I sometimes, you know, you block them for a little bit or you time them out, because sometimes people are frustrated with whatever their own lives and they just want to get something out. Then there's just some people that are just, you know, mean for the sake of being mean just because it makes them feel good, whatever. But, you know, the internet is just, man, they love to tear people down. You don't really see them build people up much as they love to tear people down.
I will say that was also my impression for a long time, and I think that's because of HQ, sadly. But with TikTok now, I have actually found I found a very supportive community, and I'm really, really grateful for that because my perspective of things has shifted. I will also say that I would go back and look at some of the people who were leaving the comments. Actually, that was pretty impossible. What I'll say is sometimes I would receive actual like DMs and stuff from people that were like really terrible. Like people telling me I'm laughing, but because now it's funny, but at the time it wasn't. Like people being, you should kill yourself, or you know, just mean things. And so when I would actually like click on who that person was, a lot of times they were young boys. And you know, when I really thought, like, they'd be like, my grandmother thinks you should die. And it's like, these are kids. A, they just don't know any better. And B, they probably idolized Scott Rogowski. And they saw me as Scott's like competition in some way, I suppose. And so like, you know, they were just going to bat for their boy, which again, like now it's so silly because I'm like, oh, these are kids. Like, am I going to waste energy on kids? No, like, you know, it's so funny.
So I moving on from HQ for a bit, I'm sure we'll come back to it later. Feel like I can't interview you without discussing the butt brush, the old shiny Hiney. I mean, that really made its rounds, not just on the internet, but all over television. When you did that, I've heard you give interviews about this. I mean, notably the Ellen one. Did you expect it to get the exposure that it got? And
oh no. No, quite the opposite. I don't think I would have agreed to it if I thought that it was going to get exposure. You know what I mean? Like, in fact, I mean, to offer some context around it, essentially, for anyone unfamiliar with the story, I had self-submitted myself for an infomercial for a cleaning product on a casting website, and the product was spelled incorrectly. And so, you know, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was a cleaning product. And I get to set because they just literally cast me off of, you know, my photos and video submissions. And I get to set and find out that it's actually the My Shiny Hiney, which is a butt brush. And they spelled it the Hiney. And I just didn't put it together that I'm a spelling nerd. So like, that just didn't occur to me that it was something else. Yeah.
I have it. I'm just going to put it up for a second quietly in the background while you're talking about it.
Yeah. So you can see it's a butt brush. I got there. They told me what it was. And I tried to get out of it because I was like, I'm not advertising this product. Like, I didn't know what it was. And essentially they talked me into it. It was a very sweet older couple who has been shooting infomercials for years. Anytime I tell this story, there's somebody who inevitably like knows this team. And they talked me into it because they're very
Can I interrupt 1 second? Your facial expressions through the whole thing are, we know what you're feeling without even having to listen to it.
I mean, it's so silly because listen, this is a real product, and that's the thing, right? This is a real product for people who have limited mobility. So it's actually a very useful product. I am not probably the demographic that should have been advertising something like this. Yes, and then there's the handy dandy finger brush.
Were you the finger model?
No, no, that was the other blonde that you see there. But yeah, you know, so I ended up doing it, and it was more of a situation where I was like, no one's gonna find out about this. It's like a little infomercial, like whatever. That's going to air like once on like late night television. And lo and behold, 8 months later or something, Ellen DeGeneres saw the infomercial, and not only saw the infomercial, but decided to make it a core part of her show for several days. And ultimately, it turned into this whole week where she was showing it, she was doing bits about it. And then I ended up making my own appearance on the show, being interviewed as Miss Hiney. So like truly the last thing I don't think you can ever predict that something is going to happen like that. But another really frankly like good example of things that have happened in my life that like, again, HQ, it's like I self-submitted on this like little thing that it paid like $150 a show, and it was just like a little trivia thing. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. And this was like, oh, I've never done an infomercial before. This sounds fun. And like they had just turned into these crazy stories and crazy opportunities. And it's like you never know where something leads.
So thinking back, and watching your hosting reel, I didn't even know you did some of the stuff that were in that reel. What do you have a favorite? Is there something that you look back on and say, I mean, HQ was probably the one that gave you the your initial most exposure. Hiney got you on Ellen, which has to be a great experience. But for you personally, outside of the recognition, what did you really like doing the best in the hosting world?
I don't know. I mean, it's also fun. I love hosting because it really is just like you get to be you. And so for me, I think that's a really fun. I just think it's really fun. There's like no pressure, I think, at least to me, to like become another character. Although I guess in acting, right, you like bring yourself to the character as well, or at least I do. But like there's no like you're literally just you. Like you don't like and there's something like very freeing about that. Because like your personality is what actually makes you that like the thing that people want to watch. And so it's a really cool way of storytelling. So I've always really liked hosting. So whether it's like I did the red carpet stuff, like where I interviewed actors and directors, and like that's so fancy and fun, but like that's really cool because it's like you're meeting people who you idolize and like look up to. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're the reason that I became an actor, so stuff like that is really cool. But then, things like the Ellen show, like, again, it's just such an unimaginable opportunity. And one that I really do associate, you briefly mentioned this in my intro, but like with sobriety, because I was only 60 days sober when that happened. And, a core part of that story for me, the way that I remember it is like, it was like my first major sign that I was like making, the right choice by getting sober. And something really significant happened like in that process, where someone from that show basically like came into my dressing room and told a little bit of their getting sober story, and like basically it was like, keep doing what you're doing, you're on the right path. And it just was like so tied to the start of something like beautiful in my life. So I think it's not actually being on that show necessarily that was like the experience, however cool that was, but like it was more so it signified, I think, me just starting a new chapter. So I think that was really impactful for me. HQ, of course, like similarly, I think HQ is a tricky thing because while it was really fun, I will also say it was very stressful, just because I would put so much pressure on myself to, like, I never felt job security there. Like I always felt like replaceable, I suppose. And so I didn't have as much fun, at least for a little while, as I think I could have. Like, and by the end of me doing HQ, I definitely had more fun. I cared less. Like it didn't feel like I had something to lose, I guess. But like for a long time with HQ, I think like I was just like, oh my gosh, if I say the wrong thing or I write the wrong joke or whatever, like I could lose this job. And it felt like I wasn't fully me, which is the thing that I like love about hosting. So it took a little while to get there, but on the flip side of it, like I learned so much at HQ. Like it was such a growing experience for me. But then like other things that I'm really thankful for are, I had 2 long-term jobs hosting that, nobody probably ever would know, but they sustained me. Like those were jobs that like sustained me for a year, 2 years with regular hosting contracts. And like they were so fun because I got to write and produce and like do my own site. So one was for this now defunct company called Little Things. And it was like now there's been iterations of this type of show, but at the time it was like a good news show. So I got to like just share viral clips from the internet that were like, so, like cute things happening and whatever. And like it just was such a feel good, like being able to look for fun clips from the internet that like made people happy and then like talk about them. And like I got to bring in guests and stuff. Like that was super fun. And again, like my full-time job for a year, which was great. And had benefits. What in this industry? Never. Like that was crazy. And then I had another job that like basically rescued me from the pandemic, which I'm so grateful for. And that was for the T-Pain clip at the end was from that. And that was basically I got to host actually there was trivia in that as well. So it was like they hired me because of HQ trivia. And I basically like started producing the show during the pandemic from my couch back here over Zoom and on this little app. And then it turned into this thing where I got to move to Connecticut for like 4 months, which I thought was going to be I just was like, do I really want to move to Connecticut? But I kept my apartment and I just like moved and like it was like kind of like being in summer camp for like 4 months, working with like people that ended up becoming some of my best friends and like producing a show. We ended up going to LA and doing these things with celebrities. And again, it just was like, it was a job that I had for 2 years that got me out of the pandemic and that got me out of hospitality. That was the job that ultimately, I never went back to hospitality after that because I was always a bartender or a server when I was working. And that was the first job that gave me enough stability where I could save enough money that I felt comfortable not having a side job. So for that, like, I am super grateful.
I feel like that's the story of so many talent. I was a waitress and a bartender, but also doing all this on the side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you brought up your sobriety, and I grew up in the television industry. I got my first job when I was 14 years old. It's one of the only jobs I ever had was working in television. And I can remember a time when substances of all sorts were used so commonly in the open. I worked at Sony Music Studios in New York, and I remember there was an audio console that had some little, say, sticky faders, and we were cleaning it out, and I watched a grown man cry because he thought we were vacuuming cocaine out of the console. Drugs and alcohol were always so prevalent, in that period. The industry has gotten significantly better. I mean, hands down better than what it used to be. But do you feel any stigma about being sober in this industry?
No, I don't. I mean, I think maybe in the beginning I did, just because, for a couple reasons. I think there's been a lot of celebrity figures, being public about being sober, which has helped. I just think the sober curious and sober lifestyle has become a bit more trendy even, which like some people might be like, I've heard people be like, oh, well, that's like, that doesn't really like sober curious isn't like really dealing with like people who like have addiction and substance issues. But like, I'm like, I don't care. Anything that can help remove the stigma around being sober, like I'm for. If somebody wants to do it to be cool, then so be it. Like, who cares? But yeah, so I think there's a lot more, talk and conversation and culture and openness around this type of stuff. So that's been really helpful. And I think also, again, when I got sober, it was more in my head than anyone else saying anything to me. Like I think I just felt, excuse me, hold on. I think it just felt uncomfortable to me because I wasn't used to it yet. So, I thought people were judging me. I felt really uncomfortable being in social gatherings, oh my gosh.
Sorry.
I felt
So you-
I have a tickle. Um, I felt really uncomfortable being in social gatherings. Just because like alcohol for many people, right, is a lubricant, social lubricant, right? So it helps you like not think about what you're talking about, or it just makes you feel more comfortable. So I think at first that's going to be hard for anybody, being in social gatherings, having a network, being at parties or events or whatever where there's alcohol. So that automatically is a challenge. So I've just gotten like the more time you have sober, you just feel more at ease in those situations. So I think it's that plus more conversation and more like I guess I don't want to call it like media coverage, but yeah, just more openness about it.
I've never drank. There, as I said in the open, there was so much addiction in my family that I think I decided really young that I just didn't like alcohol. And then as I got older, I wanted to stay away from it because I just felt in my gut that I would have those same issues. And so if I never touched it, I would never know what I was missing. And when I was younger, I definitely feel as if people didn't invite me places because I didn't drink. Like, and I think maybe they felt that it was because I was judging them for drinking. I think the most commonly heard thing that, and I still hear it to this day when I tell people I don't drink, or, when people invite me out to drink and, I don't get alcohol, they'll always say, oh, wow, that's so good for you. That's great that you don't drink or whatever. Everybody, do you get that reaction? Do people say, oh my God, that's so great that you don't drink?
Yeah, for sure. I think anytime somebody has a problem with it, I mean, it can go two ways, right? Like I think when people have issue or they like get weird about it, it's only because they question their own relationship with alcohol. Like that's a huge factor for sure that I've seen. Like people get defensive or weird about it, or they're like, you can't just like, so I think that certainly is a thing. But I also do think that some people are genuinely curious by people who choose not to drink because it's just so integrated in our society and in everything. So we're still definitely like in the minority, like to go out with people that are all drinking and not drink. Like, yeah, it's also just, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's gotten easier for me, but it in the beginning, it definitely was hard. And I definitely do think people like, yeah, I'm sure I'm not invited to certain things, or not so much anymore, because honestly, like the people that I choose to spend my time with, like they're all good friends at this point. So like I don't waste my time with like people who would choose to not invite me to things because I'm not drinking and it makes them uncomfortable. Like if you don't want me there, then it's probably better that I'm not there, because I'm probably not going to enjoy myself anyway, to be honest with you. So like it's best for both of us. But yeah, no, I mean, I think some people can get a bit weird about it, but I don't know. I think it's definitely, in my experience, I mean, and like you said, I think it's gotten a lot better.
We're gonna bounce around a little bit and go back to the Ellen topic. You hosted Cat Week on Ellen, and you were very excited about this because you said you had a cat, and your cat was the love of your life. How I need to ask, how is your cat?
She's sleeping next to me right now. I would pick her up and actually show her to you because she's so cute, but I feel bad. She's has to sleep. She's still the love of my life. Her name is Sophia. She's a Siberian gorgeous girl. She's older now. She's like 13, but like you wouldn't know it. She's very young at heart. She still has her kitten face. And yeah, no, she's such a good girl and like truly the best.
I had to bring up the cat because it looks like we had some cat fans that came into the chat from
oh my God. Yes, I love cat. I love all cat. I mean, I love all animals. Like I'm just partial to owning cats because they're easier to take care of, and literally that's it. But
I love animals too. We were talking before the show. I started a farm, right? I mean, I've cows and goats. And by the way, Sophie Donuts in the chat says that your cat's name is perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
And I hope we spelled perfect, Purr.
She didn't. She didn't do the pun. No, I was
okay.
thinking that same thing too. She missed the opportunity.
Okay. That's okay. She is perfect. And her name is perfect. Yes.
And I think she's disappointed in herself for missing that pun.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, the other, I needed, I watched your reel a whole bunch because I made a promo going into this week and I took clips out of it, to make that promo. And one of the things that I saw in your reel that I never saw or heard of at all was that bowling show. What was the bowling? I mean, the excitement in your eyes while hosting bowling was I feel like if you hosted all bowling on television, it'd be the #1 thing on.
Oh, that was really fun. So Bolero, I think they have locations like all around the United States.
Sure, I think they're the biggest bowling brand out there now.
Yeah, so they approached me. I guess I think it was during HQ to do this show, and yeah, they were just trying to like make bowling hip again, I suppose. And so it was like less of a like straight bowling show and more of yeah, there was like money involved. People from so it aired on Facebook, which is funny because now I feel like I don't know, is Facebook even relevant? I don't know. Anyway, but it did air. It aired on Facebook and it was live, and people could like again like compete in these like challenges from home and win money, like bet on contestants and stuff. And then we would give them bowling challenges, like they'd have to wear like beer goggles and bowl, or granny style bowl, or just like it was like ridiculous bowling. You didn't actually have to be like good at bowling, which I think was really fun. Yeah, it was super cute. We did it was like a 6-part series. We did 3 in New Brunswick, New Jersey. That's one of their locations. I know, so random. And then we did 3 in Los Angeles. So I got to go to LA and do 3 there. And I had like a co-host on each coast for each. And yeah, I don't know if they wanted to go series. Or if it was just like promo for them. But it was super fun. And yeah, I wish it kept going. I would totally do that.
So, fun fact, my brother's from New Brunswick, New Jersey. Not that it's important to you, but one of the things, before the show started, Sarah and I connected just to test everything out. Clearly, it didn't make a difference. I still botched it. Totally my bad. But I pointed out that it seems like a lot of her shows were things that would have existed in one of my studios, and I never had the opportunity to work with her. I posted on my personal Instagram, just my friends and family and coworkers, that I was doing this podcast tonight with you. And since I have posted that, I am not kidding, I now have 17 different messages from people who, makeup artists, camera people, a couple producers, like, oh my God, I love her. How, like, she is so great. So I just wanted you to know it. And I asked like a couple of the people early on before when the run-up screen was on, oh my God, do you know her? Do you have any tidbits or any pointers for what I can ask her? And every one of them was like, no, I saw her on HQ, but her social media just makes me fall out of my chair. I think if you're in the industry, your TikToks and your sarcasm through some of these things it's just hysterical. I don't think I laugh harder at anybody's stuff than some of the things you put on social media.
Oh, thank you. I don't even know if I would describe, it's funny because, I originally started on social doing sketch comedy. So like pre-HQ, I was making sketches on Instagram, pre-TikTok too. And like working with friends that were actors and camera ops and stuff. And we were just like shooting our own stuff. And yeah, it was all just like comedy. And then when the pandemic and I did that all through HQ. It was a lot of work. And then and then the pandemic happened, and obviously like we couldn't collaborate with people in the same way because we were all scared. We just didn't know, right? We just like isolated. And also just like it was a time that I didn't really feel funny because there was so much happening in the world. So like my ideas like bank was dry. So like I took a bit of a break, and I had some sort of like frustrations with the industry and stuff during the pandemic as things shifted. And I was like, I'm just going to talk about this because this feels relevant to me. I was also relapsing at the time. Not funny, but I'm I don't know why I'm laughing. So like, it just was like a time, I feel like it was like it was like a time of rebirth for me. So I was like, cause I just didn't feel, I was like, there's a lot of pressure to turn up as this like comedian. I think HQ put it in my head that I had to be funny all the time. And I just didn't like feel like I could be funny all the time because I wasn't feeling funny all the time. And like the world wasn't funny. Most of the time during that time. So anyway, I started making these like videos about acting stuff because that's what I was dealing with, and some about sobriety too, like you said. And yeah, it was so they took off, and I don't know, it's been great because I feel like I could talk about any of that stuff forever. And like, yeah, sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's not. And sometimes it like it allows me, I guess, to show up really authentically in whichever way I'm feeling. So like if I want to be funny or something's funny to me, or I need to make a comment on something in the industry, like I can. But you know, if I had a hard day or I'm dealing with something a bit difficult, like I can also show up in that way, and it doesn't have to like involve the pressure that like it needs to make someone laugh.
And I want to just put out there, so I'm not misleading everybody, you are correct. Not everything you do online is meant to be humorous, but just the stuff that you do put that is humorous, I think sometimes it just hits people in the industry in a way where you're just like, yeah, oh yeah. I get that.
100%. I think it's like it's really interesting because there's a relatability, right? So for anyone in the industry, you're like, oh my gosh, been there, or like that happened to me. So that's really nice. And then there's also people who I think like I have like a 50-50 audience. The other 50% really is like they don't know anybody, I guess, who's putting out that type of content that really like shows what it looks like to be like a working actor and host on a regular basis, who's not like famous, you know what I mean? Like just showing the ins and outs of like the daily grind. So it's really a nice window for people who just like want to see what that looks like. So yeah, it's funny because anyone in the industry is like, yeah, they're like, oh yes, that. And then anyone else is like, oh well, that's interesting.
Well, I want to take this opportunity. I want to open up some questions to the chat. We do a thing on this show that I've explained to you in our little test where when a viewer asks a question, we roll this D20 on the screen, and it's a knowledge check. It's an old Dungeons and Dragons style knowledge check where we're gonna check your own knowledge of yourself, and it's can she answer the question or can she not answer the question? And somebody has been messaging me nonstop since they saw this, and they had a question, and I've been debating whether I was going to ask the question or not, but it is on your resume, so I figure I'm going to put it out there. It lists on your resume that you are Phi Corps SAG, and they asked if some of the stuff that you were doing for stage led you to go Phi Corps, so that way you could take non-union theater stuff. I'm guessing this person is an actor or actress of some sort, and they wanted to know if you felt that there was a stigma on you in the industry for going Phi Corps. I mean, Phi Corps, by the way, for those who don't know, SAG-AFTRA is there's really two big acting units, SAG-AFTRA and Equity. Equity really deals with stage stuff. SAG-AFTRA, obviously film, television, commercials, new media, which is most of the stuff online, the streaming stuff, whatever. Phi Corps is financial. It's SAG-AFTRA. It's financial core. You pay dues to SAG to allow the legal you get to be held under the SAG contract with the rules, but you are not a full member of SAG. You don't get the opportunity to vote, whatever. Now SAG hates Phi Corps, and they try to dissuade people from doing it, but I personally have known a lot of people that have gone Phi Corps in recent years because of the number of independent projects out there that have not been able to afford the union or whatever, and their careers have been great. I'm curious, to answer this viewer's question, what your experiences are, but you don't have to answer just yet. We're going to roll the die and see if you actually know the answer to this question, or if you just have to make something up. So it could save you the uncomfortableness. Oh, it's a 10. You don't. I'm so sorry, but you don't know the answer to your own to this question. You're going to have to lie about being Phi Corps.
I have to. Well, the funny thing is, I don't even know what Phi Corps is, so I'm so glad you explained it to me, because I've never even heard of it. So it's very difficult for me to answer a question about something I don't even understand. How's that for an answer?
No, that's great. 10 out of 10.
No, but in all
No!
fairness, I was gonna say there's plenty of information about this on my
I-
TikTok channel. So if
yeah.
anybody is curious, go do a deep dive.
Well, believe it or not, I think your TikTok was the first place I learned about it. And then I
Okay,
looked it
yeah.
up because I had never heard. I'm pretty sure. And that's why I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask the question anyway, because you seem pretty open about it. And,
Yeah.
you know, the people in the chat, are there any questions? You know, I don't know if you can keep hearing the vibrations of my phone, but every time it has vibrated, and so far it has been somebody saying, wow, I love her. Like just people, oh my God, I love her. I watch her TikToks and play the game. That's a makeup artist that I know. So like every one of these people are like, just you are very well loved in this industry, apparently.
Oh, that makes me feel good. Thank you for sharing the comments with me.
It's more, usually we get questions, but you're the third guest on my show. This is only the third episode, and I've had great guests before you, but the love that people seem to have for you, like seriously, nobody has caused my phone to blow up like this, like you have, which is amazing. It's great. As I said, I was so excited to get you on in the first place. But if chat's not going to ask any questions, we're gonna go into the next thing, which you are the queen of trivia, and I can't have you on without playing trivia. You know, and so I had one of the mods randomly pick somebody in the chat. It's Pawn X Pawn is the winner of this. He is going to win a really nice prize if you can answer some simple trivia questions.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be honest, usually we don't have this multiple choice, but in honor of HQ Trivia, we're going multiple choice with our questions.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And I make these myself, so adding the multiple choices was it added a whole level as I was trying to think of, you know, there's always that one choice that you know is wrong, and then there's always like the two where it could be one or the other. But here we go. This is all general knowledge. This is not any particular category at all. It kind of some of the questions are a little tricky. And Sarah previously, just so everybody knows, Sarah previously stated she is not an expert at trivia.
I'm an expert at asking trivia questions, but I am not an expert in answering them. But you know what? We're gonna give it our best.
Pawn, this one's for you. Okay, on a dartboard, what number is directly opposite number 1? And the answers are number 2, number 20, number 19, or number 6.
We're gonna go 2.
The number 2 or 2, the number 20?
The number 2.
I'm so sorry. It's the number 19.
I was gonna go 19.
Fun fact, I didn't know that either, by the way. I didn't know that either. But I've included, by the way, the picture of the dartboard on the screen so we can in fact see that it is. How many colors are there in a rainbow? 1, infinite. 2, 5. 3, 9. 4, 7. Oh,
no, because I want to say it's Roy G. Biv, but maybe it's infinite. This might be a trick question. Okay, if it's Roy G. Biv, that's 7. So it's either 7 or infinite. Okay, I'm gonna go 7.
It is 7. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Roy G. Biv.
Okay.
What is cynophobia the fear of? 1, the fear of dogs. 2, the fear of clowns. 3, the fear of heights. 4, fear of the dark.
Okay, I'm going to eliminate the fear of heights. I'm going to eliminate the fear of dogs. I don't know, fear of the dark.
Why did you eliminate fear of dogs?
I don't know. Just felt like it.
It is fear of dogs. The flag. Oh, I just gave the answer. The flag of the European Union has how many stars on it? 1, 11, 2, 12, 3, 13, 4, 14.
14.
2, 12.
Okay. I can't count that fast.
What is the world's most expensive spice by weight? 1, oregano.
That's
2,
saffron.
Saffron. Saffron is correct.
Yes.
What was the original name of the search engine Google? 1, Backrub. 2, Backlinks. 3, Excite. 4, Alphabet.
I'm between Excite and Alphabet. That's hard.
Why those two? Why between one of those two?
I don't know. I just go with my gut. You're like, it's not right.
No, I'm just asking. I have no idea.
No. Gosh. Let's go Excite for fun.
Excite was actually a competitor. It was one of the first search engines. Alphabet is what Google is called today. The answer was Backrub. I didn't know it either.
That's crazy.
Fun question. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? 1, 24 miles per hour. 2, 20 miles per hour. 3, 27 miles per hour. 4, 15 miles per hour. And we are talking about the European variety, not the African swallow.
No, I'm so glad that you asked this because I had this conversation with a friend this morning. And it's 100% 27 miles an hour.
Science disagrees with you. They say the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow is roughly 20.1 miles per hour. You know what's funny?
Well,
my
friend really misled me. I blame them.
What's funny, when researching this, I saw 2 answers online. I saw 24 miles per hour, which was the answer I was going to put initially. And then I always verify the answers to make it fair. I always make sure I double check my work.
Yeah.
And there was a really big study where they talked about flaps per minute, and they broke down the whole science, and they did come to 20.1 miles per hour. How many notes are there on a standard grand piano? 1, 98, 2, 78, 3, 96, 4, 88.
88.
It is 88. That is.
Yep.
See, some of the questions are easy.
The things I know, but the things I don't know, I really don't know.
What does the term GPU stand for? Graphics processing unit, 2, general processing unit, 3, grand processing unit, 4, gigabit processing unit.
Oh my God, I don't even know what a GPU is, or that would help. We're gonna go with a general processing unit.
It's actually 1, graphics processing unit. It's the most integral part of a modern day computer.
Wow.
The likeness of which president is featured on the rare $2 bill of U.S. currency? 1, Jackson. 2, Adams. 3, Polk. 4, Jefferson.
Okay. Gosh, I can't even tell you the last time I saw one of these. Probably bartending. People love to give these to bartenders and they think like they're giving you something lucky, but in reality, I'm like, no, a higher tip would have been nice. Jefferson.
You're correct. It's Jefferson. I want you to know that chat has claimed that you broke the internet not knowing what a GPU was. You have sat in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I let you down.
It's okay.
Listen, a lot of the things that I use every day, I don't ask questions about how they work. I just take them for granted. And that's, I guess, shame on me.
We have a second chance contest. Now, in the past, historically, the other guests have done much better on the second chance trivia than the first trivia.
Okay.
Once we have my trivia, we then jump over to Dorky Geeky Nerdy and pull out one of their trivias. And
okay.
You said you didn't have a fandom. You kind of had Harry Potter, but you didn't think you were going to be able to answer questions on that. So I scanned all of their trivias, and I said, I felt like this one of somebody who didn't really have a nerd fandom is the one that you most likely might be able to answer some of the questions on. Okay, mathematician Charles Ludwig Dodgson is better known by which pseudonym used to write 2 books about a curious girl named Alice?
I guess, are we talking about Alice in Wonderland? And if so, I literally have no answer. I have no idea.
We were Lewis Carroll.
Oh yeah, I should have known that.
See, they are easier questions. Which lead
They
character
are.
is best known as a person who taught himself to talk to animals?
Which lead character is best known as a person? Lead character of what?
Books. This is all like child
we're in
literature, there's movies. There's movies of this as well. This will be a character that you'll kick yourself, I believe.
Like, who
If you
taught
don't-
himself to talk to the animals? I don't know, but I have one right here who's finally
It's Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle.
Which child detective is rarely used first name is Leroy? This is a deep
no
one.
idea.
Yeah, that's a
I
deep
don't
one.
know.
Encyclopedia Brown. I used to read those books growing up. Which detective series focuses on brothers Frank and Joe?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
The Hardy Boys. That's fine. Are you kidding? This is fine. Who is Curious George's human companion?
I don't know.
I can give you a hint. Do you know Curious
Okay.
George? You ever seen the Curious George
The
books?
monkey, yeah.
Yes, he doesn't have a name. He is merely named by a descriptor of him.
The man.
Keep-
Yellow. What's he wearing? I don't remember what he's wearing. Hat?
Yes! The man in the yellow hat!
Oh, okay.
Which series pioneered turning books into games and using the second-person perspective when writing?
Pioneer turning books into games. Would it be like Choose Your Own Adventure?
Choose Your Own Adventure.
Finally, Jesus. You know, I was a book nerd. This is embarrassing for me. Like, my mother would have bet money that I would have gotten this right.
Which author wrote about a boy named Charlie visiting chocolate factories and riding glass elevators to space?
God. Oh, I don't know the name of the author. This is so humiliating. I have no, I don't know.
By the way, this is the third week in a row we have a Willy Wonka question in trivia. It's Roald
Roald
Dahl.
Dahl. I mean, like the witches, Matilda, James and the Giant Peach. Like I could name all of them, but I'm like, oh my God, I don't know. Yeah, I read like all the Goosebumps and the Boxcar Children and Harry Potter. Like I should have done better on this.
Which Belgian book series became a
Ooh.
long-running cartoon about blue people who were only 3 apples tall?
The Smurfs.
Absolutely, the Smurfs.
Okay.
Okay, listen. You can't get this wrong.
Okay.
This is a give me
Wait.
which series
Wait,
by
it literally
J.K.
is Harry
Rowling?
Potter. Okay. Okay.
Which series does Daniel Handler write under the pseudonym Lemony Snicket?
Can you give me a hint?
I think it's also a show streaming on Netflix. If I recall, it's a very popular show on Netflix. I
A
think it's
series of
Netflix.
unfortunate events? Wait, is that
Series
right?
of unfortunate
Yeah!
events.
Sick.
See? Unfortunately,
That was a good
Pawn, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, not your night, Pawn X Pawn.
No, I'm so far from it. I'm so sorry. Listen,
But-
at least I didn't say I am the queen of trivia. I know my place is asking the question.
But you can write trivia too. You said you get hired to host trivia nights.
I can write the trivia. I can write the trivia jokes. I can research the trivia. I cannot just answer the trivia.
We're gonna go meta for a second here. One of my goals for this podcast as I grow it, right? I mean, this is the beginnings. This is just starting. One of the things that I would like to do in the future, as this expands and as I bring more people into it, is I want to do what nobody else is doing in the podcast world, and I want to turn this into more of a live variety. I want a set. Like, I want a real set. Nobody does that in this genre. People shoot in front of green screens, or people have their rooms that look like talk radio studios. I want like a variety set. And I want to have, the game show section with the host and the crazy sidekicks and just think back to old school variety television. I want to kind of bring that to the live streaming world. I feel we were talking before about Chris Gethard, and I'm always reminded of the Chris Gethard show, and I don't know if you ever watched it, You know, it started on local access and it eventually went to, you know, cable television for many years. And it was basically a real life Wayne's World. I feel like had that show come in a time when, rather than being on public access, he started on a streaming platform, it probably would be the biggest thing on the internet today. And that's kind of the goal. But when that happens, and we need a game show host, we are reaching back out to Miss Sarah Pribis and making you the official trivia host of this podcast.
The questions, we're good.
When you write the questions, since I've been writing these trivia, where do you get your material for the questions that you write? Where do you go to?
I just Google stuff. Like, it depends. Like, I'll think of it. If sometimes it's under like a certain topic, like, yeah, I'll go to Google. I had to do one actually, like, weirdly enough, for a food brand recently. Like, they wanted to do some TikToks with food trivia and stuff, and actually specifically like nostalgic snacks from like the 80s and 90s and stuff. So I hit the internet and yeah, I just go down like a hole of like what's interesting to me, you know, like I'm like, oh, what is it? And then of course you have to be able to verify it. I think that's the hardest part, because I just remember when I was hosting HQ, like people would try to poke holes in every single thing. Like so I think the hardest part about writing trivia is making sure there's multiple sources that can back up what you're saying is true. So yeah, when I think that was like always my biggest thing. So like not only just like niche enough, like if you found something niche enough, which is always really cool, you had to make sure that you could verify it.
And I brought that up in the own trivia. You know, I found multiple answers to the unladen swap. That was more the fun question, you know, the old Monty Python and the Holy Grail question. I just try to keep things fun. Listen, I promised you we would keep it to an hour. We have approached that hour. So I hope you enjoyed coming on. We had to avoid talking about your acting stuff, which, by the way, guys, she doesn't just host. She is a full-fledged actress in tons of things, and we can't talk about any of them because of the strike.
It's sad. It's okay. Hopefully we're about to end it because we have a meeting on Monday. You know, SAG and me, AMPTP, they have a meeting on Monday. Obviously the writer's strike has ended, so I think we're moving in the direction that we need to be. And, you know, yeah, it's all been worth it though, because we're fighting for really important things. So
sure.
You know,
and look, when the strike is over, hopefully you had enough fun where you'd be like, I'm gonna come back.
I'm gonna study. I'm gonna give you a category next time, and I'm gonna study it. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pretend like I wrote the questions so that I could be like, what questions did I write? Look at all the answers and be fully prepared to destroy that topic.
You know, maybe in the future too, we can have you come in to ask the trivia questions in some future ones as we get some other guests. I think that would be fun too. You know, you are one of the, and I've said this so many times, you are one of the people I've always wanted to work with. And it's never happened with other people's work. Maybe I just have to make it happen myself and say, you know what, screw it. Sarah Pribis is going to host our trivia portion going forward.
I'm in. Let's do it.
So really, thank you so much for coming on. And to everybody watching, if you're coming in late, if you missed any part of this stream, it is available as a VOD. I believe the moment we end. The video is available on YouTube later tonight. The audio version's available tomorrow wherever you get your podcasts. Next week we're gonna have Mr. Beast, but we had to reschedule him to make room for another great guest. So stay tuned. Yeah, you know, we just can never seem to fit Mr. Beast in. It's just, we were gonna have him this week, but then you said you could do this week, and so we had to push him off. It's unfortunate for him, but you know, stay tuned to the socials for that announcement. And really, Sarah, thank you again so much for coming on. It just meant the world to me. So.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
And I hope I wasn't that nervous, because I was very nervous going into this interview. You're the first guest I don't know. I don't have any relationship with you, and so it's like, wow, did I do as the best host in the business? How did I do?
You were great. You did fantastic.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for watching, and you know, like, share, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. Thank you so much.